intimidating to people sometimes because it can be tricky. So I'm going to give you a little demonstration on a little do's and don'ts about staining. First of all, things that you need to have with you are always rags, cotton rags, pretty much lint-free rags is what you want to have. Tack cloth, who some people don't know what that is, you get it at a hardware store, and it's very sticky type cloth that always, when finishing, you should have by your side, because whenever you're going to stain some wood or put finish on wood, you want to get all of the dust off of it. You'll also need gloves. Rubber gloves keep the junk off of your hands, and it's just a good idea to have. Okay, what I have here are a couple of examples of wood. I'm showing you two different examples because each of them takes stain in a very, very different way. And I'm going to demonstrate to you that to you today. This is oak, and this is a birch. Birch, maple, very similar, and very similar in the way that they stain. So, take the piece of oak, tack cloth it off. After it's been properly sanded, of course, it should be sanded. Oak should be sanded to 120 grit. Maple, on the other hand, or birch, you'll see is very different than that. So get your stain out. Always good to have one of these too as an opener. Get them at a hardware store, paint store. Then it doesn't break up your wood here. I've always got a stir stick. Take it and make sure that you get the sediment that's on the bottom of the stain stirred up very nicely. Okay? Alright, now when staining, you do not need to follow the grain. In fact, you should not. You should be wiping it all across it, getting it deep into the pores, getting that color into the wood. Just like that. Okay? Let that sit. Now I'll go on over and do the same thing to the birch. If you want it a little bit darker, you can leave it sit a little longer, but normally it doesn't take much time. And then you take a nice dry cloth, and then you wipe. Again, you can wipe any way you want, but finish by wiping with the grain, and you get a nice, smooth stain on there that shows off the details of the grain. Now we take it to the birch. Well, if you've got a good eye, you can see that that's not quite as uniform. This one isn't as bad as many, but it takes darker and lighter in areas on the birch or maple. So if you're ever staining birch and maple, what you need to do with this is you just sand this all the way up to about 180 grit, even 220. And sometimes you need to actually then apply a pre-conditioner. This is a pre-stained wood conditioner. Again, not necessarily on the oak, but you may want to use it on your maple or your maple, birch, pine. It's almost a necessity. A really good sanding up to 180, and possibly even using pre-stain. What I would do, if it was your project, I would take and make sure I had a sample board. I'd take and sand it all the way to 180. See how that stain goes on at that point. Is it coming out uniform? And if not, then use this following the directions. And the pre-stain, you put it on, and you can wipe it off. And you wipe it off in about 15 minutes, it says on the can. And then at that point, you have to stain.